You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hey everyone, today we talk about whatever the heck is going on in Moon Knight. Was everything we saw before just a fantasy of a crazed mind? Or is the new reality just the fever dream of a man on the verge of death? Or maybe it's something even weirder. We'll try to figure it out today on the Dan Wickline Show. You're on The Experience. Stay tuned. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. JD, can we get one of those? The little do-do-do-do, like the more you know things? I really like one of those. You know? I really would. All right. I'm still kind of reeling from that episode of Moon Knight. Been trying to let that kind of marinate in my brain for a couple days. You know, I came off of watching The Batman, which was spectacular. And I've been watching Winning Time, and that's great. And then it's almost like Marvel went, hold my beer. And we got episode 4 of The Tomb. I think what the hell is probably the only real good criticism or critique you can say of that episode. But we're going to talk about it. But before we jump into Moon Knight, we did learn that a production of another Marvel series seems to have begun today. Now, Alaqua Cox tweeted out a picture of a bunch of flowers that she received. I believe the term for a bunch of flowers is a bouquet. Actually, I think the difference between a bunch of flowers and a bouquet of flowers is if they're put together with some form of artistic purpose rather than just clumped together. So these were definitely a bouquet of flowers. They were very nice looking. And she received them from another actress named Devry Jacobs, who is in the series Reservation Dogs. And I got to tell you, every time I see the name Reservation Dogs, I think of Reservoir Dogs. And I see this picture of this younger woman. And I'm thinking, there's no way she was in Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs was years ago. Reservation Dogs. Well, the flowers were wishing Alaqua Cox luck on her first day of filming the new series, Echo. And it was dated April 21st. So today is the beginning of production on Echo. Now, the interesting thing is that Cox is new to acting. She wasn't an actress. It was actually Hawkeye was her first ever role. Well, now I don't know if Devry Jacobs is already a friend of hers or how they met or what, but there are some people out there are speculating that maybe this means that Devry Jacobs is going to be in the Echo series. It's possible. We know a few things. We knew very few things about it. We know that it's not going to be taking place in New York, or at least not all of it. There's some parts being filmed down like Georgia and stuff because that's where they're shooting. They set up to shoot in April and May in parts of the South. So it looks like she does leave New York to get away from Kingpin. And it's believed that both Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are going to be in the series. Now, part of that is because both Daredevil and Kingpin are major parts of the Echo comic history. But the other part is that a costume designer who works on that series, and I think it's her first Marvel gig, talks about how, or in a tweet or something, her listing had her as doing the costumes for Echo, Daredevil, and Kingpin. So she inadvertently said that they're going to be in the series. We'll have to see if that ends up being true. Sometimes it's a slip like that is how we find out information. And sometimes it's just it's just wrong. So we will see. But Echo series should be interesting. It's kind of the sequel to Hawkeye, maybe a prequel to Daredevil. We shall see. All right. Also in Marvel news, there was a recent interview in Entertainment Weekly with Paul Bettany, and he was asked about returning to the MCU as the Vision. Now, there's been a lot of speculation since the ending of WandaVision, what exactly is going to happen with the character, whether he's going to pop up in Doctor Strange, if he'll show up somewhere else, will he Secret Wars, where? Now, when initially asked, Bettany gave his usual humorous answer, like he did when he talked about getting a chance to work with an actor he always wanted to work with, meaning himself. He basically said there's no amount of money that would get him to do it again. And then he laughed that off. The important part of what he said was that at the, quote, at the end of WandaVision, you see Vision fly off. And that's a loose end. Kevin Feige is a man who doesn't really allow loose ends. So I assume at some point I'll be putting on my tights and cloak for another outing, but I don't know when that might be. So what Bettany is basically telling us is he has no idea. There's no immediate plans. There's nothing in the works right now involving Vision. Now, that doesn't mean he maybe already has. Maybe he did suit up for WandaVision, but he talks about the White Vision being a loose end. And it's true. Kevin Feige doesn't seem to like loose ends. So I would expect to see him pop up somewhere. And in non-Marvel news, Paramount and I think it's One Media have announced today the full title for their upcoming Dungeons and Dragons movie. The title is going to be, ready for this? Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. That one didn't really get me excited. Now, I play Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm not a long-time Dungeons and Dragons player. I've only been playing for maybe 5-6 years now. I've known about Dungeons and Dragons and all that, but I never got into playing it. That said, it just seems like Honor Among Thieves is kind of a limited title. It's not really something exciting, and thieves are like one class of, and I believe they're called thieves. My problem is that I also play Warcraft, and sometimes they have the same name, sometimes they don't. So I want to say rogue when I think of a thief, but I believe in D&D they're thieves. And it just isn't that exciting of a title. So I was paying attention to my notes and I didn't notice all the things. So yeah, I'm hoping the Dungeons and Dragons movie will be great. I actually enjoyed the Warcraft movie, but it wasn't great. But yeah, hopefully it'll be good. But yeah, Honor Among Thieves doesn't excite me as a title. All right, let's see. What do we got to? My Photoshop, but I'll try. Okay. You are welcome to join the conversation. Just stopping by to like and share the Facebook and YouTube links. Thank you, Jay. JD says this is misinformation. Feige is trying to throw us off. Jay Burns says the replace. Jeff Whitting, I haven't caught up on Moon Knight either, but I am living dangerously and choosing to be spoiled, plus getting all the other news bites. Yeah, this is this latest episode of Moon Knight is big. So, okay, it is Rogue and D&D as well. Thank you, JD. That's what I wanted to know. Before we jump into exactly what what transpires in the 4th episode of Moon Knight, I want to talk about one of the characters in Moon Knight, because there's also some speculation going on. It's the character of Layla. Now, Layla is... Do they have her full name in here? Layla El Fowley. Okay. Meg Holloway plays Layla. And there has been speculations and questions about the fact that in the comics, Mark's longtime love interest is Marlene Allery, French. So she's a blonde girl, French. And here, Layla is the love interest, and she's actually his wife. Now, Layla, yeah, thanks. That's going to be stuck in my head all day, JD. Anyway, she... So people have been wondering what happened to Maureen and why, or Marlene, why, where Layla comes in. Are they the same person? The answer is basically the original plot and script was being worked on before the director got brought in. What's his name? I'm doing horrible with names today. Let me pull it up. I want to do this right. Mohammed Diab. When Mohammed Diab came in, Jeremy Slater had already kind of written the outline and stuff, and the love interest was going to be Marlene. Well, once they got in there, they really wanted to make this authentic Egyptian and really bring in that element. They first changed her to part Egyptian, and then eventually they changed her to full-on Egyptian. So when they did that, the name changed to Layla, but there's some other connection too. So if you are wondering if Layla is Marlene, yes, the MCU version of Marlene is going to be Layla. But there may also be another connection here, and it's a long shot, but this is popping up online a lot. Now, her last name, again, is Faouli, Faouli, Faouli. Now, there is a character in the Marvel Universe called Abdul Faal. And Abdul Faal is created by Roy Thomas, Frank Robbins, and Frank Springer all the way back in Invaders number 23. He's a character that also goes by the name of the Scarlet Scarab. And this is a 1940s character, and he leads a group called the Sons of the Scarab, and he's basically a protector of Egypt. And he comes into conflict with the invaders because he is for freeing Egypt from Britain's rule. And this is what was going on at the time. But also he's not for the Axis, you know. So when the Germans start invading, he ends up working with the invaders. Later on, he actually teams up with Super Axis against the invaders. But so there is this character named Scarlet Scarab. And his powers are superhuman strength and durability. He could fly roughly 300 to 400 miles an hour, was able to fire concussion blasts of mystical energy, and was able to sap power from others upon contact. You know, he was strong and stuff like that. So there's this character, Scarlet Scarab. And it's got the same last name of File. And if I'm totally mispronouncing that, I apologize. But it's the same last name. Now, is it a coincidence? If you would have asked me up until episode 4, I would have said yes. It's a complete coincidence. It's probably a popular last name. And just a coincidence. Yeah. Well, if you watch the 4th episode and jumping ahead, there is a scene near the end where Layla is arranging pictures on a whiteboard, talking about bingo. And you see she's got a little bandage on her finger or a rubber tip thing or something. She's got a white thing wrapped around her finger. On the white thing, there's a drawing. And that drawing is of a red or scarlet scarab. Now, I know we're dealing with a scarab in this. You know, the scarab that leads the way. It's the golden compass to find where Amit is buried. But to actually have a scarlet scarab drawn out on the bandage on her finger, I think is very interesting. And it's very similar to the scarab that is on the belt that the character of the Scarlet Scarab wears. So again, it could just be a nod to the character. It could be specifically a connection that they'll play with later on. I mean, I've always wondered if Marvel would eventually get into doing the Invaders. I mean, they hinted at Human Torch or the Android Torch in the first Captain America movie. The body was in the science display or the Stark fair or that they go to, where we meet Howard Stark for the first time. Dr. Thornton's amazing android is there, and it's the Android Torch. There is also talk that we're going to get Namor the Submariner in Black Panther. We have Captain America. Those are your three main invaders. I mean, yeah, sure, there was Miss America and the Wizard and Union Jack and a bunch of other characters, the Blazing Skull. They all eventually became invaders, but those were the three base, along with their sidekicks of Bucky and Toro. Namor never had a sidekick. The android had a sidekick of an actual boy that could burst into flames, but and nobody ever talks about him. He kind of disappeared. But so the invaders are set up. Could we get the invaders? Could the Scarlet Scarab become part of that? That would be really interesting. But are they going that deep to try to make her an actual hero character? It seems like a stretch to me, but then Giganto's Namor's sidekick. There's Namorita. So there's possible, but didn't show up in the Invaders. But yeah, so there is a name connection at least, and then you see the Scarlet Scarab on her Band-Aid. Could we see the Scarlet Scarab pop up in this show at this point? Who the hell knows? It's getting wild, isn't it? So, all right, we will take a deep dive into the episode itself, starting right after this commercial. We'll be right back.
Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
This is The Experience.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey there, hi there, ho there. You're as welcome as can be.
Hi, I'm Nancy McCann. Welcome to Friday Night Live on The Experience.
Welcome, everybody. It's Fat Jack's Comic Crypt.
Brendan, Al, Jason, hanging out.
There I am. Welcome back to Kicking It with Henry, folks. I am your host, Henry Kumpa. It's great to be here with you guys.
So we are going to talk about books that are in stores this week.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Mishmash.
Hello, and welcome to the Black Comics Universe, presented by Peep Game Comics.
And you gotta love it that the first people in the minute to skim it are creators.
Up, everybody! Welcome to another Wednesday Warriors. My name is Joey Galvez, and this is my pal Ambrosia.
Hey, everybody! Welcome to Space Cadet.
Hey!
What's up?
Welcome, everyone, for another episode of I Must Ask You a Question.
Hi, everybody, welcome to Nerd News Now.
Hey, this is Rex. Welcome to Comic Collectibles.
Hey, hello, all you happy people. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. This is the crazy show that we do on Thursdays called What's in the Box? What's in the Box?
Comic culture and sales.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. We are going to be talking about Moon Knight, Episode 4, The Tomb. It's probably the scariest episode so far, but before we do that, let me remind you guys of my pick of the week. Yes, this is Moon Knight number 1. You know what? I've not actually talked about the comic itself. I've talked about the cover. I've talked about where to get it. But this is the current Moon Knight series going on. Now, this is issue 1. It's written by Jed MacKay. It's drawn by Alessandro Cappuccio. And the regular covers are done by Steve McNiven. There's other variant covers. There's a John Romita Jr. cover. There's a bunch of them out there. There's a Bill Sienkiewicz cover, too, out there, too, if you're looking for it. This one is my favorite. It's Gerardo Zaffino. I got this one from dynamicforces.com, and they have both. They have it regular and they have a CGC graded. JD will put the link up there if you want to get it for that. But also, I just wanted to say what the new series is, and this might interest you if you haven't been reading it. It says, the mysterious Mr. Knight has opened up his midnight mission, his people petitioning for protection from the weird and the horrible. The Moon Knight stalks the rooftops and alleys marked with the crescent moon tag, bringing violence to any who would harm his people. So basically, Moon Knight has taken over an area of the city and said, this is mine, I will protect it. He puts the crescent moon up to mark his territory, and then he meets with them as Mr. Knight, and then he goes out and kicks ass as Moon Knight. Now, Mark Spector, in whatever guise he dons, is back on the streets, a renegade priest of an unworthy god. But while Khonshu languishes in a prison that Moon Knight put him in, they had a falling out. Moon Knight must still observe his duty, protecting those who travel at night. Let it be known, Moon Knight will keep the faith. It has been a really fun series. I think we're on issue 10 right now. They've listed up through 12, and it is a good series. So if you guys are looking for some more Moon Knight that's a little different than what you're getting from the TV series, check out the current run Marvel's doing now. And again, the link for this issue, if you want this cover or some of the other variants, you could also check your local comic shops. If you don't know where your local comic shop is, go to comicshoplocator.com, put in your zip code, and bingo bango, they'll tell you where to go. Also, if you're traveling, if you're going to a new town, a new area, you want to check out the shops, Comic Shop Locator to tell you where those shops are. I know Google can too, but Comic Shop Locator is a lot better way to do it. A lot faster. All right, let's get back into it. Now, this episode... Just going to go here and catch my breath after that minor heart attack I just had. Hadn't expected this spoiler warning. I'm good. Gonna live. Got my my heart monitor thing over there. I could just put that on, check it out. But I think I'm good. All right. Okay. The opening of this episode, I thought it was really interesting. Now, Osiris's avatar. Yes, there definitely needs to be a Dan warning before the spoiler warning. Adding some jump scares to the show builds excitement. Should I have somebody behind me just suddenly pull me off camera? Yeah. Get the audience going? All right. So the episode opens with Osiris's avatar taking the little Khonshu statue. And it starts off upside down. And then as he's walking, it turns. And I think that's to kind of get the audience into the idea that everything is changed. Everything is different. And he takes the little Khonshu statue into this area of the Great Pyramid of Giza. I really should just put that on silent. Takes it in and puts it up on this little alcove type, little shelf thing. And then as he backs up, you realize there's a lot of those little statues all over, and they're all different. And you start wondering if the fact that there was only 5 of the in the Ennead is because they've been trapping gods for a long time now. And those 5 may be the only ones left. I mean, we knew Amit was trapped. That's what the whole purpose of this is to break her free, or Hero's purpose. Now Khonshu's trapped. But you see these little statues up there, and you're wondering, is it really down to just Osiris, Isis, Hathor, Horus, and that other one? Don't have that in my notes right now. Well, it's possible. Maybe they've been doing that. Maybe there are really jacked up. If the Mandalorian showed up on Moon Knight, it would be the surprise at this point. Well, Oscar Isaac and Pedro Pascal are really good friends. So it would be awesome. It would be, especially with the way the show ended, having him pop up, actually wouldn't be that surprising. I could see that, him just coming in and rescuing him and then taking off on the Razor Crest, because the Razor Crest would still be built in good shape in Mark's little head. Yep, I like that idea. So, yeah, perhaps a lot of the gods, perhaps the Ennead have overstepped their bounds, and that's part of what's going to have to be dealt with here. Something to think about. What's going to happen? I mean, the fact that they're showing us all those statues, I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think that's just, oh yeah, we happen to have a statue room, we'll just put it in there. Now, if they were all statues of Khonshu, that would be interesting, because, then you got Mark running in trying to free him and have to go and figure out which is the right one. But they were definitely different statues. So, all right, so we cut out of that scene. And yeah, everything is now turned upside down. And we go over to Layla, who is trying to drag Mark, who is unconscious since Khonshu disappeared. Well, Steve and Mark. At that point, we're really not sure which one's going to wake up. And as she's doing it, some of Hero's men show up and start shooting at them. And they're not very good at searching. Because it's like, we saw movement by the truck, and they circle around the truck to check, but they don't check inside the truck, which seems to be a bad idea, because you would think since they drove there, some of them might still have the key and could get in. But Layla grabs a couple flares, which turn out to be her greatest weapon. By the way, also, bright red flare could also be called Scarlet. Could be another hint towards her being the Scarlet Scarab. Just saying. But you got her using the flares to first get the attention of the bad guys to get them away from Steven/Mark, and then tossing one into the back of the truck where they have all the bullets. Now, I don't know if a flare gives off enough heat to that quickly set off all those bullets. But it made for good TV, so we'll let it go, right? But yeah, if the Mythbusters were still doing their thing, I'd say, Jamie, Adam, figure that out, please. But and then the bullets start going off everywhere, and she's really not that far away. And there seems to be some things questionable, and that's one of the questionable things. And because where this episode goes, you start wondering, was that unbelievable? Was that real? Also, there have been moments in the series that have had mistakes. There's a couple, like one or two places where cameramen are seen, or the leg of a crew member, or on the rooftop during the fight, there is this piece of material over in the corner that appears to be a green screen sheet. And now you have to wonder, well, are those things there on purpose? Are we going to flip the script on this too? See, when you do an episode like this, and we haven't got to the twist yet, but when you do an episode like this, you start putting the entire series into question. And now we don't know what the hell's going on. But she's able to blow up the people in the truck by throwing a flare into the bullets. And then Mark, or Steven is Steven at this point, is suddenly awake. Actually, we don't know who it is at that point. We find out later Steven's talking, but there's that third person that we haven't met yet. But they get in the car and they head back towards the tomb. They know where it is now, and the idea is they want to try to get to the statue before. And and then they have to ditch the car. But at one point they're going along, and they see a goat, and the goat is on this precipice above them, looking down, watching them. And this is actually the second goat that has popped up in the series. When Harrow and Steven were walking through the little commune area, there was a goat, he pointed out. Now, there is a goat god in Egyptian history. It's Khnum, and he's actually the god of water and stuff like that, but he's got the head of a goat or the head of a ram, depending on the depiction. But again, now that we're kind of starting to see these things, you have to wonder if some of the other gods are making their presence known, or if some of the other gods are watching over what's happening because they see a chance to escape their imprisonment. I don't know. It just, again, we're starting to get an idea that there may be puzzle pieces we didn't know there were puzzle pieces to look for. It could be one of those things where we look back and it's like, oh, yeah, I guess we should have kept an eye on that. So, the goat. But when we finally get to the campsite of Harrow's men, it's empty. They're all inside the tomb, which is interesting because there's also like this bloody weapon lying about, and you're wondering, did everybody go in or did something come out and take the rest? Which is starting to seem like. But that little weapon, And Stephen and Mark have a conversation, and it's Mark has started to notice that Stephen seems to be sweet on Layla and is a little jealous. Threatens to throw them off a cliff if he does anything. Mark wants out, and of course Stephen's like, no, I'll take care of this. I'm good. And then as they're getting ready to go into the cave, Layla and Stephen get close, and Layla leans in to kiss him, and Stephen immediately blurts out, Mark is trying to protect you from Khonshu because Khonshu wants you to be his next avatar. And at that point, she's appreciative of the honesty, but she's like, it's not Mark's decision to make. She doesn't need to be protected. But basically, Stephen helped out Mark there because now she knows what's going on, where Mark wasn't talking about it. So Stephen's honesty, and that's the thing, is that Stephen's honesty is something that Mark doesn't have. And it's, again, because his personality is split into different aspects. Stephen is one aspect, and he's got the intelligence and the curiosity and the honesty, where Mark has more of the logic and the decision-making and stuff like that, where maybe that third aspect we haven't met yet has stuff like the tendency for violence and things like that. Have to see where that goes, but I think that's something to keep an eye on. They do go down into the cave, and, well, before they do, Stephen leans in and kisses Layla, and then she goes in, and he's about to go in, and Mark takes over his hand long enough to punch Stephen in the face. And that is straight out of Fight Club. So again, there's a lot of little homages to other movies in this series, and that is, like I said, straight out of Fight Club. And then he goes to rappel down into the cave and doesn't know what he's doing and falls. But when they get in there and they start looking around, they realize they're in a maze. And Stephen is able to figure out that the maze is actually the Eye of Horus. Now that's interesting because I don't think they were exploring enough for him to make that determination. But it's interesting also because the Eye of Horus is a huge symbol in Egyptian mythology. There's also the fact that Horus had his eyes stolen and then brought back. Horus also seemed to be the nicer of the gods. Hathor and Horus were the nicer ones at the meeting of the Ennead, at the meeting of the Council of Avatars, that's it's been called. So that seems like there's a lot going on there. But when they go through, they realize that whoever tomb this is supposed to be the tomb of the avatar of Amit. And they don't know who it is. And the indication is that this may be the one that betrayed Amit. So, hey, buddy, welcome to the show. I'm sorry you're not enjoying the Moon Knight series. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I'm kind of curious where it goes. It reminds me a lot of the recent Jeff Lemire run, and that's what we're talking about today is the Moon Knight show. But I'm sorry if it's not doing it for you. All right, so he figures out the Eye of Horus, and the long curly part off the eye is known as the tongue, so they follow that, thinking the avatar is the voice of Ahmed at this point. And as they're going along, we suddenly enter a horror movie. It's a cross between Indiana Jones and a horror movie, as this undead priest returns and has one of Harrow's men, the one that had pretended to be one of the cops, throws him on and starts disemboweling him, just taking him apart like they would to put them into the tomb. And they end up separating and giving chase. And we followed Layla, and she's jumping around and is very, again, Tomb Raider-like, or she's giving a lot of Rachel Weisz vibe from The Mummy. It's also very Mummy-like, the Brendan Fraser movie. But there's a jump scare where she gets pulled into a crevice, fights her way out, pulled back in again, and eventually gets into a fight and throws the creature off the cliff, has to pull herself back up. But again, you've got this whole thing going on. Meanwhile, Stephen finds his way to the actual tomb and starts reading it out and discovers that who the Avatar was. And it's a non-Egyptian, but it's someone who started to claim that they were Egyptian, and that's Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great basically took over so much of the world that he's known to have wept because there was nothing left to conquer. And when he was in Egypt, he declared himself an Egyptian. And he loved Egypt so much that it would make sense that he is buried there. And we don't know where Alexander the Great is buried. So it makes this kind of a jump for Marvel that makes a lot of sense. But Stephen pushes it open, and Mark becomes encouraging at this point. And he reaches his hand down the throat of the mummy to try to find, and then eventually finds the statue of Ammit that is where her essence is trapped. We cut back to Layla, who is then confronted by Harrow, and Harrow pretty much just spills the beans. Just drops the tea, whatever you want to call it. Pretty much calls out the fact that Mark was involved in Layla's father's death, that he remembers it perfectly. And, this, of course, causes a problem. So when Layla does meet back up with Stephen, even though Stephen is like, hey, we won, we found the statue, we're great, woo, she's like, immediately wants to talk to Mark. And, did you kill my father? Stephen lets Mark out. This is the second time Stephen went, danger, I'm out of here. Mark, take over. Take the body, take the body. And, of course, we get the important thing there, that Mark did not kill Layla's father, but he was there. He was part of a mercenary group, and that his partner is the one that killed her father. And that is a good chance that we're talking about Raoul Bushman, who is the one that kills Mark Spector, leaves him for dead at the foot of the statue of Khonshu. That's from the origin. So the only difference at this point is that Marlene or Layla wouldn't be there where she is in his origin in the comics. But it looks like they're going for pretty much straightforward from the comics origin. So that's the big reveal there. And I think we're going to find out more of that. We may actually get to see it now that they've set it up. I don't know if we'll get to see Bushman or not, but I'm kind of curious. I'd like to see that. But what, of course, happens next, Harrow and his men show up, and we'll pause now for our second commercial, and we'll talk about it after that. So we'll be right back.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. We're talking about Moon Knight, Episode 4, The Tomb. We got the spoiler thing going on up there because we're going to keep going on with spoilers. JD, the point you just made in chat is something I'm going to get to. Specifically, that's something it's the last thing on my outline, so we are going to get to that. But let's get through the actual episode. But don't leave when we're done here because there's a lot of great stuff on the experience coming up right after this show, including What's in the Box, which is up next. That's Miss Jen going to her warehouse and picking out a box and putting whatever's in the box up for sale. I'm curious what's going to be. That's always fun. So stick around for What's in the Box and the rest of our lineup tonight. Now, getting back into it, there's a neat little Easter egg that pops up as Harrow and his men come in. Mark grabs a little axe from inside the tomb. That axe is identical to the one that they gave him in the comics when suddenly all his weapons took on a major Egyptian theme, where suddenly he was throwing little winged scarabs and stuff like that. He carried that axe. So, neat little nod to the comics right there. You know, in the meme that has him throwing random shit, that era, and he had an ankh on his chest, that's the axis from that. What happens here basically is Mark takes out a couple of the guys. Layla hides with the Ammit statue, and then Harrow shoots him twice in the chest, says, you know, I can't help someone if they don't want to help themselves. Mark falls over backwards into what looks to be about a foot of water, and then just continues to sink. And everything we know then gets thrown out of whack. We suddenly end up in this 1980s, 1990s style adventure TV show called Tomb Busters that's led by an adventurer named Dr. Stephen Grant, who uses a golden compass and comes across the Aztec lunar god that has three faces, which is interesting, being that Mark has the three personalities we believe in this. And the whole thing just turns out to be a TV show on a VHS tape. And as we pan back from that, and it's a total Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider type thing. But as we pan back from that, we realize we are in this new reality that is straight out of the Jeff Lemire, Greg Smallwood run. We are in what appears to be an institution. We see a lot of the characters from the series now in this setting. There is somebody calling Bingo, and that person is Crawley, the gold statue guy from earlier. Donna from the gift shop is sitting there holding a stuffed scarab. Mogart's man is pushing around a trolley full of cupcakes, similar to a truck full of cupcakes. There's a guy playing with a Rubik's Cube like Mark was playing, or Stephen was using to try to keep himself awake. Just down the line, there's a woman drawing, and the woman kind of looks like the woman who did the passports, but she's drawing a hummingbird, but it's got the head of Khonshu. There's all these little things going on that harkens back to what we've seen previously in the series. Layla is there moving pictures on the chalkboard or on a whiteboard. Again, the Band-Aid with the Scarlet Scarab on it. Mark is in a wheelchair. He's put there by one of the two cops from earlier, Billy and Bobby, which are the names of the year orderlies in the Jeff Lemire run. Billy and Bobby are those cops. He tries to get up and has an ankle restraint in his wheelchair. He's got what looks to be a custom-made Moon Knight figure. I saw one person point out that he thinks it's an actual Skeletor figure they've repainted. So I don't know if it's actually supposed to be a Moon Knight figure or if that's just a repaint, which kind of makes sense in the series. That's a repaint. But you got all this going on. Then he gets taken to meet with the psychiatrist, who, of course, is Ethan Hawke's character of Harrow, except for now he's got the hair all done back. This office is totally made up with things from the series. There's Egyptian stuff, but it's not a normal looking office. It looks like it's an office built in the ruins of a building. It's like partly broken away walls and stuff. And Mark comes out of this fog. Oh, Gus the fish is there in the main room. But he comes out of this fog, and it's almost like he's coming out from underwater, like he had been dropped in. And when he comes out, he realizes that he'd been shot. Now, the doctor is talking about the VHS tape and is trying to portray this thing like everything we've seen is this fantasy world within Mark's head. Mark flips out saying, you shot me, tries to run away, has to fight off the two orderlies. And then when he gets out and starts running, the entire building starts to sway. The lights are swinging back and forth. And the idea that this is the new reality starts to become in question as well. And as he turns the corner and dives into a room to get away from the orderlies, he sees this sarcophagus that someone looks like they're trying to get out of. When he pushes it open, it's Stephen. And when Stephen gets out, they embrace, and you have Mark and Stephen together for the first time. And then when they both remember being shot, when they start trying to get out of those, they see a third sarcophagus. Now I think that's really important. They don't open it, they don't go near it, but it's this red sarcophagus, like angry red sarcophagus. And the fact that they don't open it, but that could be that third personality that they haven't acknowledged yet, that they actually seem to go out of their way to not acknowledge. Well, they make their way down past the third sarcophagus, or second sarcophagus. They get down to the end. You have the big shadow on these doors that are just about to open. When they open, we see a large bipedal hippopotamus done up in Egyptian garb with the nicest voice who goes, "Hi." And the two guys scream. And that's where the episode ends. Now, the Egyptian, the hippo, it looks like it's the Egyptian god Taweret, 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 who is the Egyptian goddess of fertility and is supposed to be a really sweet god. So we got to take that into perception. But where the hell do we go here? Like I said, this isn't obviously the new reality because there's an Egyptian god standing there. There's Mark and Stephen are both there. There's that other sarcophagus. So this is all obviously taking place in Mark's head. And if you've read the Jeff Lemire's Greg Smallwood run, there is that point where he's trapped in an institute, which is all in his head, we find out. And he does confront Stephen and Mark at the same time. They find common ground. So there does seem to be a parallel to that comic series, which again makes me think more and more that, yes, we are dealing with inside of Mark's head. Now, Taweret may be there to help guide him out, maybe there to take him as her avatar because Khonshu can't, maybe to get help to get her free as well. There's so many possibilities at this point that it's all taken this really big turn. And then I want to address what JD said. We find out that Mark didn't kill Layla's father. His partner did, but there's nothing to say that his partner isn't Jake. That Jake may have killed him. I don't think so, just because A, would make it super awkward. But B, he refers to his partner as having done it, and Jake hasn't acknowledged, or Mark hasn't acknowledged that Jake exists. Now, he could be specifically doing that, but when the guys are killed last episode, he thinks it's Stephen, and at no point does he seem to even think that it's Jake or even comprehend that there's a third one. So I don't think Mark or Steven know that Jake exists. So the fact that he says his partner killed, but he could assume that his partner killed him, I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be Jake that killed Layla's father, because, again, that makes it really awkward. What we're going to get from here, God only knows. It has taken a huge twist. I'm loving the twist. I love where this series is just continuing to change and shift. You have to go back and relook at everything we've seen so far and start wondering how much of it's real. You know, was everything real? And then when he gets shot, he goes into this fantasy world in his head? Or was none of it we've seen so far real, and we're still waiting to get into reality? We got 2 episodes left, and it could go absolutely anywhere. So, all right, guys, that wraps up my kind of recap and look at the episode. It was absolutely crazy. I cannot wait for next week because I really want to see where they're going next. Yeah. I mean, for all we know, we might be in the overvoid now. Anything could be happening, but all right, guys, stick around for What's in the Box with Miss Jen and all the other great shows we've got coming up tonight. I will be back next week. We'll talk about what Warner Brothers should do with Fantastic Beasts. We'll talk about the next episode of Moon Knight. And I'll do another show as well. So we'll do 3 shows next week like we do. Come back then. Have a great weekend. See you soon. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.